Hello, everyone. Ladislas Maurice from The Wandering Investor here. And today we're going to have a very interesting discussion with two experts about the real estate market and Kyiv and how it's doing right now with the whole war situation. So we're joined by two experts on the topic. The first one being John, who runs two funds in Kyiv, one being on residential, focusing on embassy staff, and the other one being commercial, focusing on IT clients. And then Alex, who prior to the war was helping foreign investors enter the Kyiv real estate market. As soon as the war started, he ran and he's still running a large manufacturer of bulletproof vests, selling bulletproof vests to individuals and also to the Ukrainian army. And now he's seeing opportunities in the real estate market. He still has his business running on the side, and he's going back into real estate. So, gentlemen, what are you seeing? Because that's the question that everyone has. A lot of people like to think buy when blood is running in the streets. I know that's a bit of a crude way of saying it, but the situation in Ukraine is a little iffy right now. So what are you seeing in the market? Are there opportunities? So Alex, would you mind starting?
Okay, thank you. Hi, guys. So now we can see that Ukrainian real estate market, not Ukrainian, maybe Kiev real estate market, it's rising. When the war started, prices dropped for around 30-40%. That depends on the total area of the property and the neighborhood. And now the small apartments, they almost regained the prices went back to the pre-war prices. But the big properties now are still 20-30% cheaper than before war. And it's, in my opinion, it's a good opportunity to buy bigger apartments downtown in old historical buildings. And in my opinion, after the war, we will see markets increasing like 30-40, probably even more percent in prices, because a lot of towns destroyed, and people who returns to Ukraine, firstly they choose Kiev or Lviv or Odessa to where to start their living after coming back home. And the rental prices now are in Ukrainian hryvnia, they are the same as the pre-war prices. So yeah, in USD it's lower, but in Ukrainian hryvnia they already recovered. So I see now for next 3-6 months, not more, a great opportunity to be to be one of the first who can catch that opportunity and earn money after all, renting or selling.
So, John, what are your thoughts? So I know it's a very complicated market in the sense that there's like price discovery right now is quite weak.
Right. So I think it's very important to consider that the Kiev market isn't ruled by economic considerations. Let's put it that way. This is due to a couple of very important factors. Right now, on the sales side of things, there are simply no holding costs. There hasn't been a mortgage since 2006, 2007, and I think we talked about this in previous videos. This results in a situation where when you have market downturns, there are no forced sellers. Property taxes are incredibly low. Utilities even don't have to be paid during the war. I think there's a rule that they won't, turn off the electricity in anyone's house. No one has a mortgage payment to make every month. So as a result of this lack of holding costs, prices didn't fall as much as they perhaps should have. I think that's important when you're going into buying things. I am a value investor. So I need to understand the yields and the returns on a property at a specific price. I just wanted to say, as well with Alexei, I think it's important for people to know that we also concentrate only on the very center of Kiev. So price comparison in this conversation can be difficult. I often, just for comparison purposes, it's like the difference between Manhattan and New Jersey. Sure, it's just across the river, but the prices difference is pretty substantial. So we're dealing only with historical center of Kiev. I think the market, because of the lack of holding costs, is governed by what Alexei was saying, in that there's great hope for the future. And this is fine. This is wonderful, but I'm not a Bitcoin investor. So as I said to someone just last week, so I would be cautious at this stage, where I feel that the cautiously optimistic, I'm incredibly optimistic about Ukraine. Let's not confuse that. But I would not, I don't see the risks. I see the risks outweighing the possible benefits in the future.
Cool. So
At this point, I mean, as soon as we have some clarity, and I'm sorry, just on the buy side, things aren't covered by economic interests, and you got to realize that the upside is governed by hope, desire. So if there is great news, that could be an opportunity to buy and renovate and rent and or sell. But I would, especially at this point in the current situation, I would be looking for more clarity.
So, Alex, so when you're talking about opportunities, can you describe us some opportunities that, for example, you yourself with your own money are working on, because you're doing quite a few deals?
Okay. First of all, I want to say that for the last 3-4 months, we have probably one of the greatest air defense in the world. I mean, Kyiv. And the last 3 weeks showed that not even one rocket missile hit Kyiv. So our air defense is one of the best. So that's minimizing the risk. If you even buy, building will not be destroyed. I'm for sure about that. Yeah. About the selling price. Last week, I sold 30 square meters apartment for the same price as it was before the war, for 50,000 USD. And that's not the historical downtown. And that was the same price I could sell that apartment one or day before the war. That means that the prices for a small apartment now are the same as the pre-war prices, just penny to penny. Because we have a huge demand for small apartments. A lot of people relocating from the occupied cities or returning back from different countries from the West, and they look for opportunity to buy something small to live in a safe city, because Kyiv is one of the safest in Ukraine, probably the safest. And I always search for the good opportunity for investments. And for last 2-3 months, prices really rise. And so definitely you can bargain if you have money in your hands. You can bargain probably 10-15%, that depends. But you can bargain more for bigger properties for now, because not a lot of money, not a lot of people holding the needed amount money for the historical buildings. But the same friends of mine, they're also investing in such properties. They are Ukrainians. They live in Kyiv, and they bought 2 properties for the last 3 months in historical downtown for very good money. That means that even Ukrainians starting to take the money from the pockets and investing, because we all feel, as John said, that there are big hopes about the victory, but I guess in the end that will happen. We can see that on the battlefields, and there is, I guess, the risk that your building will be destroyed there is minimal, and I guess that after the war will be finished, that will not be the best opportunity to buy, because the prices will rise a lot. And we will see that starting from June, Ukrainians who live in Western Europe, they will return to Kyiv, because their children finishing the schools and kindergartens, and a lot of people, because I have a lot of friends Ukrainians, that's for sure. They are all waiting the finishing of the studying of their children to return back. So starting from June, I guess like 100,000 people more will come back to Kyiv, and they will rent, either live in their own apartments or will buy something new for them, because not all of them from Kyiv. They lived in eastern Ukraine before the war.
So, Alex, I have a question. So, look, if on small surfaces, larger surfaces, different topic. If the prices are now the same as they were pre-war, I don't see how this is an interesting investment. So essentially, you're paying the same price as before, but the difference being that you're at war with the nuclear power. I don't find this an attractive proposition.
Okay, the prices is the same for the small apartments, 30 or 40 square meters apartment, because there are huge demand for that apartments, and the prices for apartments something like from 80 square meters. They are still the opportunity. Opportunity is not in the small apartments. It was never an opportunity for me because they were always overpriced for me.
Okay.
Yeah, again, Ladislas, this is a function of no lending. And so as a result, every purchase is 100% cash. And at this point in time, I mean literally 100% cash, a suitcase of cash, not even because under Ukrainian legislation, bank transfer payment can only be made in hryvnias. It cannot be made in foreign currency. And no one will accept a hryvnia bank-to-bank transfer at this point in time due to restrictions of converting it into euros or dollars, and due to the fact that there's also limits on withdrawing cash from the bank on daily, weekly, monthly. I think Alexei brings up a lot of good points about internal immigration within Ukraine. That's a massive factor. The population of Ukraine before 2014 was 3 million. Now it's 5 million,
You mean
perhaps
Kyiv?
6 million. Kiev. Oh, sorry. Did I say Ukraine? Yeah. Immigration within Ukraine to Kiev is a major driving force. And there's a massive shortage of supply, which we've also talked about. So, yeah, these small apartments are in demand and there is internal movement. But I think just what you said, yeah, the upside is based on hope. And I think I would want to see something like a rightly or wrongly, doesn't really matter, massive foreign investment in the rebuilding of Ukraine, regardless of even how it's spent, would result in massive trickle down in the economy. And as a result of, people not lack of bank trust and a lack of stock market or fund investable opportunities in Ukraine, of which there's literally zero, people invest in real estate. So I think that's going to have a massive impact. So I'm looking for, possible NATO and or security guarantees, possible EU or whatever association membership, and definitive pledges for the rebuilding and investment in Ukraine. And these aren't, I just want to state that these aren't political statements I'm making in any way or emotional. This is what will drive the market and will result in, this hope for price increases.
So, Alex, you're looking at some investments in land and housing, etc., and you can get some decent yields.
Yeah, now I'm looking for land in downtown, somewhere near a botanical garden to build some townhouses, looking to the river, and it's really downtown. And the prices for big houses and for land, they dropped something like from 30 to 50%. So if you have money in your pocket, you can buy something big for some good money. For example, last week, friends of mine, they sold a property that was like a ground floor, but really downtown. They sold property 240 square meters for 500 USD per meter. That's really, really cheap.
Let me know. I'm interested in that price.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm also looking for such big apartments on the first floor because that's an opportunity to split them for smart apartments and rent them out fastly for good money. So now I'm looking for a property which is 100. No. It's 210 square meters for $130,000 near the metro and near the universities. So I can split it for 8 smarts for like 25 square meters, and I can rent it out even now for $350. Even now I can receive more than 10% yield if I have more money in my pocket, even now. And after our victory, the prices for rent will rise, and the prices for property will rise, and I can sell it like a running business, no problem. And even for that apartments I'm running for rent, I already receive more money in Ukrainian hryvnias than the prices before the war.
Those yields that you mentioned, those are gross yields, right? Before property management and all the expenses.
Yes. It's for those properties I talked about. That would be around 12-13% gross yields. Yeah. But it's even now. After the war, it will be much more than 12-13 because prices for rent will rise.
So essentially, what I'm gathering from you two gentlemen is the opportunity right now is not in smaller units. It's in being a liquidity provider in physical USD cash and buying large houses, large apartments. And that's where the discounts are, possibly them chopping them up into smaller units because there's a lot more demand for this with all the internal migration. So this is where one of the core opportunities lies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years. Due to the lack of lending, we were buying places first for 200,000, then 500,000, then 800,000 as the market improved, the liquidity improved, the discount for a larger property because there's no lending. The absolute amount became bigger. But yeah, now it's back around $200,000. You can get a discount due to the fact that just simply no one has $200,000 in cash. And an important thing that Alexei mentioned is the lack of strict zoning regulations in Kiev as well. First floor in a residential building does have great opportunity because it can be residential, it can be office, or it could be commercial. And it's pretty relatively easy to convert between them, even unofficially rent for any one of those three. And in the future, as certain segments or the market develops, you can subdivide and choose how you want to zone that property for resale. So that just gives you more exit options, which is very important.
So let's say if I wanted to make a real estate investment in Kyiv right now, I'm a foreigner. Sellers don't want money in the bank because of capital controls. So which is a big risk that foreign investors need to take into account. The exit right now is not necessarily that easy. So how do I actually buy real estate right now? So Alex, let's say I contact you, there's your email below here. I'm like, hey, I want to make such an investment. Help me out. Am I supposed to take the train to Kyiv with a suitcase and $300,000 in cash?
No, of course not. First of all, you can transfer the money through the crypto. That would be the safest option. Second, if you buy big property, sometimes they are selling by companies or they are selling by people who can take the money also in Ukrainian hryvnia and still keep it in the bank account, because for now banks they give good interest rates on your money. That's much more than in Europe. Also, I have part of my money in Ukrainian banks, and that's okay. That's fine for me. I trust to them. And still, if you're a foreign investor, you will open an investment bank account. That's possibility. But the problem is, as John said, that we have restrictions for the seller, that he will not be able to take more than 1,000 hryvnia per day from the bank after the purchase.
Which is how much in dollars is that?
It's around $30, $27 per day. That's restriction to keep money in the banks, and that's kept our system alive, because otherwise people would take all the money from the banks, and the system would die even one year ago. So that was a good restriction for that period. If we are talking about big properties, people who sell big properties, they will always find solution how to receive money from you. because people who sell property for 150, 200, or even more, they know all the opportunities how to cash out the money after the purchase and transfer into their bank account, even in Ukrainian hryvnia. So people who sell their house near Botanical Garden for $1 million, which was around 3 million before the war, they definitely know where to put that $1 million and how to take it out, for example.
Okay. So it's still doable.
It's still doable, but not with people who sell apartments for 50,000 or 40,000 bucks. I wouldn't go for that apartments for now. That's not the opportunity.
Okay, clear. Any thoughts on the topic, John?
Yeah, sure. And I don't mean to be ultra conservative here. I mean, I'd like to say a couple of things. Even before the current situation, I really, really please recommend any investor to have a very good lawyer. It doesn't cost more than $1,000 or $2,000 or even $3,000 for full due diligence, full contract, full negotiation, and everything. Please, that's so incredibly important. I can't tell you the number of times that, and I'm sorry, it's the people that have made a lot of money in real estate and that are very experienced real estate investors and have invested in many emerging market real estate. They come to Ukraine and they say, I've done this a million times before. I don't need help. I don't need advice. I don't need even whatever. And then they give me a call 9 months or a year later and say, I bought a property with legal problems, with problems on the title. I am getting screwed by my construction guy. You got to be, please, there's a difference between normal and legal. And especially, like, for example, in the current situation, if you buy a property and the full purchase price is not included in the contract and the proof of payment is not in a legal means, they can't, and there's a deficiency in the contract, the seller can return whatever amount of money is in the contract back to you in the future and get the property ownership of the property back. So if you buy a $200,000 property and on the contract it says $50,000 because you're doing 150 in crypto and 50,000 in bank transfer, they can give you back $50,000 and they'll take back the property. If there's a problem with the title, or I mean, it's just like title anywhere. It could have a claim against it or something. You know what I mean? So I urge extreme caution on this, and it is not expensive to get a professional advisor and lawyers and legal help and a proper bank to assist you in these transactions. Yeah, sure, I provide these services, great, but I mean, I just can't tell you the number of foreign investors I've seen that badmouth Ukraine for no good reason other than honestly their own stupidity. And all of the risks they took were absolutely preventable, and it was only their fault that this happened, and it makes me sad. But anyways, yeah, definitely, please do your due diligence.
Cool. And I think one important thing to add is that if, as a foreign investor, you do not go through the proper channels, as things stand, you would have issues getting your money out, because Ukraine sure has capital controls now that are more stringent than before, but even before the war, the country had capital controls, and you needed to show how the money came into the country to be able to get it out later out of the country. So, I mean, Ukraine being Ukraine, generally there are solutions for sure. And some people are fine with it.
You got to watch a little bit of this culturally, because there's absolutely solutions, but there's a timeline difference culturally. Yeah. And Western people, I don't know, my mom's worried about 20 years from now. Maybe I work in Ukraine, so I'm worried about most people are worried 5 years from now. I'm maybe worried 1 or 2 years from now. Ukrainians are worried a week or two from now. So, you know, there's solutions today. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. You got to be very, very careful.
I would add, if you before the war, if you buy apartments through investments account, that's your proof of investing, and you can take money out without any risks. That's fully legal. I never bought any apartment for any of my clients for a lower price in the documents. Yeah, that's not correct, and that's stupidity. And also, that's true, you should check everything a couple of times, and you should pay to a lawyer or your agent or to the notary or whatever to check everything, and that's no problem. And in Ukraine, you can buy. There is no restrictions. I mean, like there are restrictions, but there are no penalties if you pay in cash for apartments. That's fully legal. I mean, like you will have the price and contract full price. You will mention everything, and you will have the paper from the seller that he received the money. That's because we have the legislation that yes, you could buy through the bank account, but there are no penalties and nothing if you pay in cash. For me, all the properties I bought to my clients, I bought only through the bank account before the war. For me now, I'm choosing the most safest options, which I have for now. If somebody agree to receive money on his bank account, I will transfer to the bank account. If there is no option of bank transferring, my lawyer will advise the best solution without risks for future. So that's true. You need a lawyer, and you need to do your homework, because I also saw a lot of people who saves $500 and then they buy apartments with in buildings with a huge scratches or damages, or they buy apartments not on the facade and so on. So that's the job of your agent. But almost all agents in Ukraine, in Kiev, they want only to take their commission as soon as possible. They try to sell you the shittiest place because you're a foreigner, and they know that nobody else will buy that. So that's a huge risk going on the market to just any agents on the street. That's a problem. When you buy something in Ukraine, I would recommend to choose an agent, for example, like John or me, the people who understand in buying process, in renting process, and in selling process. Because if agents are professional only in buying process, he will not prognose you for how much you can rent it out, how much reconstruction will cost you, and for how much you'll sell it. So you need to mention and to think about everything.
Yeah, and both of you have done dozens of renovations as well in Kyiv.
Yeah.
Cool. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today. This was really insightful because I know a lot of people out there are wondering how the market is going. There's not much data. If you Google, there's practically no information. So I think this was very insightful. Okay, so if anyone is interested in getting in touch with John or Alex, there are their emails below in the description.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. You can go to my website, thewanderinginvestor.com, and sign up to the private list. It's entirely free. This way you will be getting insider information as I travel around the world looking for opportunities. Lastly, feel free to follow me on Instagram at The Wandering Investor. I look forward to hearing from you.